right, now look, you guys made it very clear to me that y'all wanted me to teach you how I like to make my beef stock. So I decided, let me go on ahead and show you how. Now, at some point in time in this video, you're going to hear me mentioning chicken and fish stock, like a seafood stock. You guys can let me know down in the comment section if you guys would like for me to show you how to make that. But I decided to show you how to make my beef stock first because just making a beef stock is way more complex, and it's also the one that's a little bit more complicated. So once you master this, making any other type of stock will be a breeze. I also just wanted to point out that although you guys are going to be getting this video at the beginning of my soup series that's about to start in October, just know that in real time, I actually made this video after I finished all of those soups. I know, crazy, right? So in those videos, you're still going to see me using stuff from the store, but that just goes to show that you can still make fantastic soups with store-bought stuff, but you can also do it with homemade. So for those of you that want to know how to do it, that is the reason why I've gone on ahead and made this video for you all. All right, get to it. Alrighty, so the cuts of beef that I will be working with today, I have 1 large slab of beef back ribs, I have 6 large oxtail, and 2 relatively large beef marrow bones. Once again, you do not have to use the exact same thing that I'm using. You can use beef shanks, you can use beef neck bones, that's all completely fine. As long as you're using a variety, you are going to come out with a fantastic beef stock. Now for the veggies, I will be using carrots, celery, 2 large sweet Vidalia onion, and I will also be using leeks. You're also going to need tomato paste, bay leaves, thyme, rosemary, black peppercorn, coarse kosher salt, and 2 cups of a dry red wine. You see that? You see that? You see that? Don't ask me for the damn ingredient list. Come on, child, let's make some beef stock. All right, so let's get to it. So the first thing you're going to want to do, you want to make sure that you are coating your meat with some olive oil and coarse kosher salt. Now, I'm going to be a little bit more on the light-handed side with the salt now because I'm going to be adding in salt when the stock is completely done. As I always say, it is far easier to add salt to a dish than it is to take it away. And if you were to over-salt it in the beginning stage, the only true way that you could fix it is by adding more water to it. But by doing that, you would end up diluting the stock, and you don't want that. So I would rather it be undersalted at this stage and then add salt in later on down the line. I have my oxtail, my beef marrow bones. I'm doing the exact same thing, just making sure that everything is fully coated in the olive oil and adding in the salt. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking this meat looks like it's completely frozen. This meat is somewhat frozen, and that is completely fine because I have my oven preheated to 425 degrees. I'm going to place this in the oven at 425 and allow that to roast off for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, 425. While that first 30 minutes is taking place, we can go on ahead and start to prep up the veggies. Now, if you wanted to, you could absolutely leave these whole and just throw it right into the pot. But depending on what size pot you have, it just makes it easier, in my opinion, if you just break it down. So that's the reason why I chop down my onions, my celery, and my leeks at this stage. In regards to the veggies, you can add in as many or as little as you would like, but just understand that if you are working with some good cuts of beef and it's nice quality, you technically speaking don't really have to add in any vegetables at all in order to get a really good beef stock. So just understand that there is no right or wrong way in regards to how many veggies you add in. The only thing I do not like to add in mine, which some people do, is garlic cloves. I don't know why. For some reason, I just do not like to add garlic to it. Also understand that although you're making this at home, this is no different than if you were buying it from the store, meaning understand that when you use this stock, you're likely going to be adding this to other things. So, you'll be adding in other seasonings and other spices. So don't feel like you need to overly season the stock at this stage, because this is just going to be the base for whatever recipes you want to use it for. So I hope that makes sense. So don't go stressing yourself out with adding in too many additional seasonings because it's not necessary. Give all of your veggies a good wash down, set those to the side. This is what your beef bones should look like after the first 30 minutes. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking that tomato paste and I am making sure that I am painting a top layer over all of the meat and the bones. You don't have to do it on both sides. One side is totally fine. Once everything is fully coated, you're going to place those back in the oven, still at 425, for another 30 minutes. This tomato paste is going to boost up the flavor of your stock. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to, but I'm telling you, this step I feel makes a big difference. I've done it both ways, and I always find that this step is crucial. Now, one of the key steps in making a beautiful stock is pouring yourself a red glass of wine, because you're going to need to add in 2 cups of red wine in the pot in a few moments. But first things first, you got to treat yourself, honey, because that's the key. Now that this has been roasting for exactly an hour, okay? This has been roasting for an hour. I'm going to place all of these beef bones in a large bowl and sit them to the side. I'm going to transfer all of those drippings and all of that to one tray, which is the larger one. And I'm now going to add all of my veggies to that tray with all of that beef fat. Give all of those veggies a good toss in that. You do not need to add in any salt. That's not necessary. Go on ahead and place those in the oven, still at 425, for 30 minutes or until you get some nice char on them. Once you get some nice color on your veggies, you can then transfer your vegetables directly into your stock pot. Not only the veggies, but all of those drippings place into the pot. We will be getting rid of the fat later on down the line, but right now you want all of that to be in the pot because it's going to add in a lot of flavor. Add in your 2 cups of your red wine and allow that to reduce by about 5 or 10%. Once that has reduced, you can then go on ahead and start to add in your beef bones. I've chopped down those ribs a little bit so that it could be easier to get everything into the pot. This process took maybe about 5 or 10 minutes for that red wine to reduce. Now that it's done so, I'm going to place all of my bones into the pot. Once I have everything into the pot, I'm then going to be adding in some water, but I want to make sure that I'm getting all of the juice from the drippings. So I'm just going to fill this up with water and then make sure that it is completely covered. I'm going to add in enough water into my stock pot so that I have roughly about 1.5 inches worth of space left at the top. Don't worry, it's going to reduce a lot, so you really want to make sure that it's nice and piled up. I'm adding in some rosemary, thyme, and 3 bay leaves, and then I'm also going to be adding in 1/2 tablespoon of some black peppercorn. You're going to start to notice that there's going to be some scum that is going to rise to the top. It is crucial that you gently remove that and clear out all of those impurities. At no point in time while you are making your stock do you ever want this to come up to a raging boil. You'll end up with a really cloudy stock. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be good. It just won't be clear. And to be quite frank, if you're not really, out here trying to be like a chef, it really doesn't even matter. So don't even go stressing yourself out about that. So you can place the lid on this, but you want to make sure that you leave it slightly cracked or just leave the lid off completely. That's completely up to you. So what you're looking at right now is at about the 3-hour mark. And as you can see, it's already starting to reduce. But within those first, hour or two, I made sure that I went in to double check to make sure that there was no scum floating up at the top. Now, what you're looking at right now is at about the 5-hour mark. And you can see now that it has drastically reduced. But not only that, the meat at this point has completely fallen off of the bone. This is all great signs. Another good way of testing to see if your stock is moving in the right direction, at around this point, you could taste a piece of that meat. And if there's still a lot of flavor in the meat, then you need to let it keep going. You will know when the meat is done when you can taste the meat and it has no flavor whatsoever. You want all of that flavor to be extracted out of the meat and out of the bones. So in total, this is actually going to be cooking for 8 hours. Again, I've gone in, mixed it around every couple of minutes to make sure that nothing was sticking at the bottom. But this is at about the 8-hour mark. So in order for me to get the liquid out, what I like to do is I remove all of the meat and the bones. I place it into a large bowl. And then I also get a little sifter to remove out all of the veggies so that I can then run all of the stock itself through a strainer to catch anything that might be left behind. You want it to be really clear. You can run it through a cheesecloth if you want, but it's really not necessary to do all of that, but that's completely up to you. And don't worry, I'm going to make sure that I get all of the liquid that might be collecting at the bottom of that bowl as well, but this just makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to run all of the liquid through a strainer, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this on the counter and allow this to get to room temperature before I place this in the refrigerator with the lid on. Now, because I was going in and skimming this off a lot, I've actually already removed a lot of the fat from it, but there's still going to be a lot of fat in this. And in order for you to have a clean and clear stock, you need to make sure that you place this in the fridge so that way all of the fat can solidify at the top. So again, now that I've gotten it run through the strainer, I'm going to place this on the counter, allow that to sit until it gets room temperature. I'm going to place the lid on it, and then I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. At that point, the next morning, it is going to, like I said, all that fat is going to solidify at the top, and then I'm just going to carefully go in and I'm going to remove that. Now, you don't want to get rid of this because what that is called is tallow. Beef fat, another word for it is tallow. That right there is liquid gold. You don't want to get rid of that. You can use that in other recipes that call for beef fat, so don't discard of that. I'm probably going to end up with about a half a cup worth, which is great because I'm going to be using that to make some French dip. Then I just place it all into these little containers. This is roughly about 1 cup of stock per container. So altogether, I ended up with 16 cups of freshly made beef stock. You can use these, keep them in your refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. But I like to put them in the freezer because it'll last in the freezer for 4 to 6 months. So I like to make sure that I label it. And that, my friends, is how I make beef stock from scratch. You can use this in a multitude of things. Anything that calls for beef stock, this will surely step up your game. I hope y'all enjoy this, and let me know if you guys want me to show you how to make chicken stock and veggie stock. I love you guys. Make sure that y'all have gotten a copy of my cookbook, Cultural Mosaic. The link is in the bio.